بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبات الصالحين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. So I wanted to follow up on a video that I made yesterday, and I was talking about how I was sent a threatening message by what appeared to be an anonymous account online. And it was by somebody that had sent a screenshot of my daughter and then my home address as a means of saying, like, we know who you are and we know who your daughter is and we know where you live. And so, alhamdulillah, after some due diligence from different, different sectors of American law enforcement, they were able to determine that the source of this account was in Israel. And so, and I've confirmed this with a few others that have received these kinds of threatening messages. And then you add to that now for several years that there has been a focused attack on American Muslim leadership for a very good reason. First, as we know, most so-called Muslim countries, and I didn't mean this as any disrespect when I said it the other day. Somebody got incensed when I said there are no Muslim countries, there are countries with Muslims living in them. And what I meant is, I'm obviously criticizing those governments that are masquerading as Muslim governments, but really are just there to serve the agenda of their non-Muslim, and many of them, their Zionist masters, by keeping their populations in check. So there's no doubt that there has been a sustained and concerted effort to stifle American Muslim leadership, to confuse it, buy it off, shame it, try to denigrate American Muslim leadership, because in many ways we are the few that are left to be able to speak our voice. If you go around to any majority Muslim country, if you go to Saudi Arabia, you can't say anything. If you go to Kuwait, you can't say anything. If you go to a great many Muslim countries, you cannot say anything. And so there has been a concerted effort to silence, buy off, or intimidate American Muslim leadership in particular. And so the fact that this came back, that this was an Israeli person and perhaps even an agent that would send an image of my daughter and my home address, shows that they would like for us to be silent, right? I mean, so in many of those countries, the governments have been suppressing their populations to concede and accept normalization with the Zionist butchering Israeli government. And so even myself, if you go and Google Mark Manley, you will see in about fifth or sixth, or you scroll down a little bit, there's a organization called MEMRI, like Middle East Research. So it's basically a Zionist funded think tank that exerts a great amount of effort to try to paint normative Muslim leadership in the worst light possible. So alhamdulillah, the truth came out as to what was the origins of this person, of these cowards, and it's the hope that I would stop making criticisms. As I said, for the most part, before last week, I have a fairly small social media presence, but I made two videos that went fairly viral and gained quite a bit of traction, at least from my standards. So I guess I showed up on their radar. So they figured, well, we got to shut this guy up. So we'll send him a picture of his daughter and his home address and say, hey, pal, we know who your kid is and we know where you live. Hint, hint, take the message. So these are, these times are really serious. Anybody, I think Muslim communities need to ensure that their leadership has, adequate protection, A lot of times everything falls on the shoulders of the imam, by himself, and that we need to make sure that we stand up and that we support American Muslim leadership, especially for those of us that are in positions to be able to speak out, whether it's on this issue, right, of supporting our brothers and sisters in Palestine, whether it's about the LGBTQ issue, whether it's about trying to force our children into accepting transgenderism, or whatever the issue is. It's clear now that the American Muslim community is going to have to make a choice. Either we're going to get behind our leadership and support them, even when sometimes we make mistakes or we don't do things perfect, because we are not anbiya, we're not prophets. Otherwise, if we can find a way to completely buy off or intimidate or silence the American Muslim leadership and the American Muslim community, then, Allahu A'lam, of course, if Allah wants, He can bring out some other people, as He has promised that He can do in the Quran. But it would certainly, for the current moment, it would not bode well for the rest of the world. And so, even though we're kind of the new kids on the block in the Ummah, proverbially, a lot is on our shoulders. So, I say this to, again, be vigilant, be diligent in your online presence, but also be vigilant in your lives and protecting your families. But also be brave, because this is what they want. They hope that we will be intimidated into being silent and to stop the barrage of criticism and bringing light to the truth. That's what they want. That's why they turned the lights off the other day in Gaza, because their hope was one, they would like to do whatever little dastardly deed that they're going to do. They would like to do it in the cover of night, because they're cowards and they're snakes, so they want to do their work at night. But two, in my opinion, even more than that, I believe that it was a psyop, it was a psychological operation, that by shutting the lights off and telling us that they're going to do it. I mean, why? It's like telling your enemy, hey, we're going to drop a bomb, and then you drop the bomb. I mean, who doesn't want the element of surprise, right? So the reason why they're telling us, right, not the Palestinians, not the people of Gaza, they're telling all of the people that are in support of them to demoralize us. They were telling us we're going to shut the lights off like this is some kind of Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, slasher movie, and it's like a jump cut. They're going to turn the lights off and then boom. And that was to demoralize us from being vigilant and steadfast and continuing to forget about ceasefire, to call for the continued resistance against the immoral and unjust, occupation of Palestinian lives and land. And they would like nothing other than for us to be demoralized and to stop, to stop putting this message out there. Because as we've seen, the massive protests in virtually every major country in the world and every major city, that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of like-minded people that are not either Muslim or Arab or anything, that look upon it and they're seeing it for what it is, and also people that perhaps before would have stood with Israel, because that's the kind of cultural, that's the cultural mantra that we hear. But then when they were presented with real historical facts and real, fact-based rebuttal of what is going on, people are being persuaded to abandon their support of Israel. And of course, that they realize, without support, whether that be support of America and its military, and of course its coffers, because it needs the American taxpayer to make this happen. But also it needs this victimology, not this victimology narrative. It needs it to perpetuate, because if people start putting, they start connecting the dots, and they start reading, and they start listening, and they start researching, many people are waking up out of this Zionist nightmare and realizing that, this is not the dream that they've been sold. They've been sold a bill of goods. And so it came back that, again, the person that had sent this intimidating message to myself and threatened my daughter, my family, is from Israel. and there's a strong chance that this person is working either on behalf officially of the Israeli government or perhaps even just, some crazy person that's over there. But the fact is, American Muslims need to understand that we are being targeted. And of course, the White House has continued to perpetuate a narrative that invites violence against American Muslims. There was just a sister in Texas that was stabbed and murdered. There was a 6-year-old child that was stabbed and murdered. And so we can only expect, as they become more desperate, to gain their support and keep their support, and how it is eroding, they may ramp up the rhetoric so that, again, Muslims in America who are speaking out against it, don't say, even members of my own family, and of course they're saying it well-intended, they worry about myself, they worry about my daughter, and they don't want any harm to come to their family. And so their first words were like, well, stop making those videos, stop posting online, stop talking about it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to abandon the Palestinians in this time. I mean, unfortunately, my hands are tied of what I can do. But as the Prophet ﷺ said, the strongest form of Iman is to change it with your hand. I am prohibited due to circumstance from doing that. And so the second form of Iman below that, the second form of faith below that, is to say something. And I will continue, inshallah, to say something. And we as a community have to say something, and we have to come together, and we have to be what the Quran says as bunyanun marsus. We have to be one rank and come together. Because in many ways, even though these people are not upon the haqq, they're not upon the truth, they're not upon anything other than a pack of lies, but they do have a kind of tenuous solidarity. And that's the, quwwatuhum du'afuna, right? That, their strength is only our weakness. So, just wanted to give this update. That's what it came out to be. So be vigilant, keep your eyes peeled, keep your head on a swivel, inshallah. Wa tawfiq billah, and inshallah, all success comes from Allah. Wa salawatuhu wa salamuhu ala nabiyhi al-kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum.